Hi, and welcome to the Plot Twist podcast. My name is Catherine. I am coming to you from Berlin, Germany, which is where I grew up and where I now live with my husband and our 3 kids. Welcome back to the channel if you've been here before, or welcome if you're checking it out for the first time. This is a slow fashion podcast focusing primarily on knitting. You can find me on the internet on Ravelry as Frau Christ. We also have a Ravelry group for the podcast, so please do hop over there and join. You can find me on Instagram as Katharina Knits. You can obviously find me right here and subscribe to the channel so you can come back no problem. You can also contact me via email if there is something that requires an email that you want to chat with me about. And I think the address is hello@plottwistyarns.com. You can find all of the information, everything that I talk about, what I just said and what I'm going to say, I'm going to mention just right below this video in the description box, which is where I'm going to provide show notes and links for you, so there will be no stumbling around when you need some information. Okay, so, man, guys, welcome back. It's been a few days. I meant to record earlier. I mean, it's now been a good 2 weeks since I last sat down and recorded. So it isn't too bad, but maybe it's a bit more than 2 weeks. Something in that neighborhood anyway. And yeah, well, what can I say? If you've watched earlier episodes, I may sound like a broken record to you, but everyone has been ill again and still and always afresh. I have 3 kids and someone is always sick. It seems like this winter is extremely or especially rough. I don't know why. It isn't extremely cold. There isn't anything, but anything out of the ordinary sort of happening. I don't know if it's people wearing not as how do you say that? Fewer masks? No, not fewer, but maybe it's more and more situations where we're not required to wear a mask anymore. Maybe that's it, or I don't know. But it's been really rough. And I don't know. It's now we all got some sort of flu that made its way through the family, so that knocked us all out for about a week. And then our daycare person now she has COVID, and it's so that's why I have my little daughter home. So that means I cannot do anything at all day long because she's only 2 years old. So I never really have my hands free, and it's frustrating. It's not frustrating per se to have the kids home. Obviously, it's fun to have them home, but it's frustrating that since October I've worked full time as a nurse. I don't know, and it's frustrating to just have to reschedule everything that you've planned for the week, even if my plans have become pretty rough. And you always have to cancel that on a moment's notice, and it's just frustrating and annoying, but okay, so what can you do? We try to make the best of it. But yeah, that's sort of why I haven't gotten around to recording earlier, because I was planning on recording a week after the last episode, but that obviously didn't happen. Anyway, okay, I'm here now, and I have a few things to chat to you about. First, I'm going to talk about what I'm wearing quickly. Again, if you've been here before, you will recognize the sweater. If you haven't, I am just going to quickly go over this story. Also, now that I see this on screen, this episode is brought to you by my Cozy Memories blanket, which I put here behind me just so as to have a little bit of contrast, because the couch is really this sort of gray color. And if I don't put anything here, I'm just going to fade into the background. And this has happened before. I had to learn that this outfit is not a good match with this couch because, well, because, and I've recorded, I don't know which episode, like 4, 5, 6, something in that neighborhood, I'm assuming, where I blend into the background. I didn't even notice at the time. Just when I edited, I thought, oh, that wasn't a good idea. So I thought I might, get her to keep me company, and just put the blanket on display a little bit for you to enjoy and also to see me better. I hope it helps. I don't know. Anyway, so the saga of this oversized sweater. The story of that sweater is the following. So it's obviously store-bought. It's not hand knit. I'm not that fine of a knitter. I'm going to show you the yoke. See, this is really a very, very fine gauge. And sorry. And I found this on the street along with 2 other sweaters, wool sweaters. And they were dumped on the streets in the rain. And I picked them up and thought, those are nice enough sweaters to not dump on the street. So I took them home, and only at home I realized that they're all, so 2 of them are 100% wool and even so required a hand wash. And the third was a mix with a little bit of another fabric, but not too much though. Was still a very delicate wool sweater. Not delicate, not as fine as this, but like real good quality wool sweater. And so this is alpaca and has this yoke going up until here. And then it's just plain gray. And that little, well, brown edging that you see here, if you can see it. There you go. The sleeves are a little long on me, so if I let my arm hang, they're really long, which I enjoy. But when I have stuff to do, I roll them up like this. It's a very warm sweater, obviously, because it's alpaca. I've washed those, so I put them in the freezer because I didn't know the household that they were coming from, and I didn't want for moths to ruin my everything. So I put them in the freezer for a few days, and then I gave them a soak, laid the sweaters flat to dry, mended the little holes that were in there because there were some, I think it was 4 on this one. One is somewhere, yeah, I can feel it, somewhere here in the yoke, but I don't think you can tell. One is somewhere up here, but since I can't tell and I can't really feel it, I have just decided to let this go. One is further down somewhere. It doesn't matter. I mended them, no problem. So it was just a few stitches here and there. And then this sweater was brand spanking new. So this actually started pilling a little bit when I wore it. Not too much, right? It doesn't pill a lot, but it started pilling a little bit. And then I thought, this is even weirder. Why would someone dump a perfectly, not just a perfectly good sweater, but like a really good quality sweater that can't have been cheap? I mean, even if it had been, right? But still, that has never been worn. Just dump it. So, well, I decided to keep this one for myself. One of the other ones went to my mother originally, but it didn't quite fit her, so she gave it back, and my husband is wearing it now. And the third went to a friend. So each one of those sweaters has found a home. And it's being worn and it's not being shredded in one of those containers or, I don't know, just picked up by the garbage people eventually. So that's the story of what I'm wearing. Okay. I don't have any finished objects to show you, which isn't surprising when you see in a minute, or have seen maybe in my last video, the projects that I'm working on or was about to cast on, because I think my main project it hadn't been cast on. I just debated the colors. So, but more on that in a second. And I had issues with my shoulder. I was shoulders with both sides. The right side is always worse, but it's afflicted on both sides. And I had been working on a colorwork cowl for my middle son, which is super fun. It's called the Fossil Frenzy Cowl, I think. And it's a colorwork cowl that I'm knitting out of non-superwash yarn, Rama Fine yarn. And it displays dinosaur fossils and dinosaur skeletons and stuff. So, and it's really amazing. Like, it's a really stunning design work, I think. So I cast this on for my middle son in the high hopes of finishing this like within a week or something, and then casting on the other one for my oldest son, so that the boys can wear these before spring. I mean, it's the beginning of March now. We've had snow for the last 5 days, so I don't know how close we are like to spring weather. It doesn't seem to be just around the corner, and then again, I just know it's just a few weeks and then we're out of winter, which I'm always sad to see winter go. I'm always very reluctant to really invite spring in, and to shed the layers. Like, I'm this weird person who cannot stop wearing all the woolens and relax into spring weather. I will be too heavily clothed for at least a month and complain about the weather, not about my inability to dress myself appropriately. But I'm gonna say this weather is impossible. I don't know what to do, and then put on my hat and my scarf. So that's waiting for me. But yeah, it's bound to become warmer. Also, the snow doesn't last, right? When you look out the window, it's not white. We're not covered in snow, but it has been snowing all day long with +2 degrees or something like that. So it is spring weather essentially, but well, anyway, so I wanted to finish this cowl for my middle son, at least the one, and then, cast on the next, but it didn't work at all. With my shoulders cramped up like crazy. I don't know why. I have a history with tension headaches, so I was very on the fence about this, and I felt such sharp pains that I thought, if I'm not really careful, it soon developed into a stage where I cannot knit, period. And I thought, this is the worst case scenario. That cannot happen at all. So I really tried to be good and not knit as much. So instead I spun a little bit, which was somewhat easier on my neck, and I'm going to show you in a minute. And I mended a few things, but also I had to be careful there. So that wasn't a success story exactly, but hey, there's a little fly flying in front of my camera. And it's gotten better now. And my main work in progress is one that is just perfect for this shoulder situation, I feel like. But I've dug out an old friend of mine. It's not that old. Hasn't been on the needles for that long, but for longer than the rest that I'm working on. I've only been working on these 2 projects though actively since we last spoke. And this is my jelly roll blanket that I'm talking about. I love it. Look at those pink colors. I love this so much. This makes me so happy when I see it. And I roughly decided this is my 4th stripe, and I roughly divided my stripes by colors. So I said, like, all of my scraps that are blue, green, tealy go in the first, then it's a gray, then it's a pink. And now I've added a stripe with, it looks like neon colors because those 2 are so neon-y, but with everything that is too busy to go into any other stripe. So, because I had some minis where I thought, what am I going to do with those? And they give me, in terms of which project can they go into that they will fit into, not what am I going to do with those, but yay, I can work them up, but into which project? And then I thought this might actually be good to put them in one stripe where I get to enjoy their colorfulness and yet they will somehow fit together, and it's a blanket, so it's supposed to be colorful and scrappy and fun. And I thought this would actually be perfect. And I had just, I have just done a mini swap with Maud, who's a viewer of this podcast. So hi Maud, if you're watching. And she sent, among many other beautiful skeins, she sent this beautiful neon color. And look how nicely it pops here. Blows out a little bit, but not too much. Looks pretty similar in real life. Maybe a bit more green yellow. It's gorgeous. See? This color has brought me so much joy. I was really, really over the moon happy to be putting this into my blanket. And I couldn't stop. I thought this had to go in there. And I love how these two look next to each other. So this pink and this yellow. Okay. Okay. So that is my first work in progress. My second and really main project is the one that I talked to you about last time around, not last week, but when I last spoke to you. And I cast on. So I had all my, no, hold on. I had 4 colors ready, and I made a huge fuss about like in which order am I going to put those colors for my half and half triangle strap. I never thought I wanted to cast on one of those until I saw the version that Inga of the Knitting Traditions podcast knit, the first one with the oatmeal color, and then this very, I want to say lush, this very beautiful sort of dark forest green. I was sold on the project. And I immediately knew that I was going to knit my version out of Rama Finur. So I wanted a non-superwash shawl, and I wanted to knit more with this Rauma yarn. I'm going to show you. And so I had my color palette ready, I thought, when I spoke to you last. And then I figured, this is not going to work. I'm going to need so much yarn. And I cast on the big version, obviously. So I cast on 260 stitches, but that means it's a free pattern. So not giving it away. You're going to have to work 260 garter ridges because you're wrapping one stitch. It's a wrap and turn, but I'm doing German short rows. I'm going to show you in a bit. You're wrapping one stitch every row, or creating a short row with the last but one stitch, with every ridge, if that makes sense to you. I hope it does. And so it is really a very big affair. It's a very big shawl, and it's a so-called shlanket, right? It's a blanket, a shawl that doubles as a blanket, or vice versa for that matter. And I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I'm going to show you so that it's easier for you to know what I'm actually talking about. But I have to manage my stuff. Hold on. So it's on the perfect length cable for my taste, but it's a little short to show you. There you go. That's it. That's what I've knit so far. It's a lot of knitting, you guys, because it's long rows in the beginning, and you always knit to the last but one stitch. So you've wrapped or made a short row with one stitch, and then you go back, and then you go on the right side, go to that stitch again and wrap, or short row that stitch that is just before the one, and then you go back and forth and work your way up. So it's easy peasy. It's a totally mindless knit. Isn't it beautiful? I love it. I love it so much. It is. These are my happy colors. So This raspberry color makes me so happy. It had to be the first color, so I have the most of this. And then it's just a jewel tone parade, right? I love jewel tones. My favorite colors. My favorite colors. So I'm going to show you in a bit. No, I'm going to show you up close. That's what I wanted to say. So, hold on. Yarn management. Okay, I hope you could see that this second color is a very dark green. It's a dark green that is very blue. See? It's a blue green, a gorgeous color that I'm definitely keeping on the back of my mind for a garment. And then a purpley color. And when I added in the teal, it tied all of those together. Because here I was still like, oh yeah, well, this could work out, but it could also look funny. And when I added in the teal, I thought, oh no, this is going to work for me because now it sort of all makes sense. And then I went with this purple gray, which also is a color I really, really, really enjoy. I love a gray that is also purple. It's just beautiful. I don't think it's focusing, but anyway, it's the color that I've just shown you. And then I'm going to show you what else I have because, well, I had to order more yarn. So this is the box that it came in. Isn't that fun? From my local yarn store. That's, I hope the camera has focused. So this is their little logo, and then came in this paper, and I kept it like this. And then ta-da! There you go. So this is both my leftovers and colors that are still to come, but obviously not all because I'm going to need much more. So no, this is not working. So I have another of the raspberry, which is color 466. The dark green, the second color is a color 4025. The purple is 427. The teal is 484. And now I'm working on this purple gray, which is 4006. Ramafinul, right? Then I have this pink, focus, which is number 456. This dark purple. So really nice jewel tony purple, which is color 474. And this sort of old pink, which is 473. Right. These are them. Then I have, because I cast on 260 stitches, and my first skein, the raspberry colored one, lasted me for exactly 20 ridges. So I'm going to make, so every stripe is 20 ridges high, which is actually perfect for doing the math. So I'm going to need 13 colors. So this is not enough what I have in here, but I have gone through my stash and found, I knew it was there, but I didn't know all the exact colors that I had. But from Mitten Projects, I still have various shades of pink and very dark red, like sort of a burgundy color, in Jameson and Smith jumper weight. And I can put these in because it's the same yarn weight, I would say. So this is 50 gram balls, 175 meters to 50 grams. So it's 350 meters to 100 grams. So that would probably make it a sport weight, I assume. We don't do yarn weights in Germany, so I'm never really sure. But the other is about the same. So, and they are still in my storage. So I'm going to take those out when the rows get a little bit shorter yet. So I'm going to show you. You can see here what I mean with the short rows. So you knit to the very end, I just made a German short row, knit back. You come back here, do the same, go back, and always so on. And then this color with 20 ridges will give me 20 less stitches that are actively on my needles. And the same with the green color, the same with the purple. This is my marker that I put here. So, and this is non-active stitches, right? Those are on hold for when I join the second triangle. And these are the ones that I'm actively working on. Doesn't look like much, but it's still, well, you can do the math. Just under 180 stitches. And so the beginning of this blanket, blanket essentially of the shawl or wrap is very long because you have these long rows, and I don't want to complain because it's not like it's a Stephen West thing where you have like 380 stitches on the needle and still, so many increase rounds to go, but it is just a long row, right? It's a lot of knitting. But the fun thing with these is, and now what's the needle size? I think it's 3.5. I'm pretty sure this is 3.5. I've got my Symphony Knit Pro needles. With not the longest cord, but the one I have the set. So what is this? Maybe a 60 centimeter cord. Something along those lines. So at any rate, it should be a US size 4 needle. So this is a good needle size because it's not too fiddly, so I get tense, and it's not so big that I get tense, but it's a needle size where I can really relax. And then I make sure I'm relaxing my shoulders, and I don't knit like this, which I often do, but like I really place my hands not maybe in my lap, but relax them down. And since it's only garter, I don't have to look. I do look down, obviously, but not all the time. I can do other things, focus on letting go in the shoulder area and just knit. And I try to not speed across the line, or the row, but to work at a reasonable pace so that I don't get overly tense on my shoulders. So yeah, that's my project. You see a progress keeper right here. So this is a sewing machine. This is what I put in when I worked 15 garter ridges, and I put this on number 15, so I know I'm going to have 5 more to go. So that's easier for me to know when to break the yarn. I won't have to count the ridges every time I get there, because by then I will have forgotten. And so the Jameson and Smith is, now I think I have like 2 more colors in mind that are coming after this, but I change my mind every 10 minutes, so I'm not even going to bother going through it. And then as the rows get shorter, I will add in some of the Jameson and Smith. And today I dug out of my stash this gigantic skein, which is the size of my hand, and I don't have small hands. So look at this gorgeous color. I love it. It's the same. It's got the exact same feel to it as Rama Finul, so I think it's going to fit in there perfectly. And it's Mominoki yarn. Mominoki is a Berlin dyer, or definitely Germany-based dyer. I don't know whether she's actually in Berlin. But it's merino wool from Germany, and it's hand dyed here in Germany. And it's 100% non-superwash wool. Again, 340 meters to 100 grams, so exactly the same weight. It feels exactly the same. And the color is called Flamingo. So beautiful yarn. I can't wait to put this in. This might actually be the next stripe. Yeah, that would actually be perfect if you ask me. Because it would add a little bit of light and a lighter color, and then I can dive into this dark purple or whatever strikes my fancy by that point. Yeah, I enjoy that I get to put in more and more. No, not well. That I get to put in more and more stripes more and more quickly as I work my way up through the project because of the rows getting shorter and shorter. I mean, ever so slowly, but well, the shorter, the quicker, right? So this is coming up to be, well, this is waiting to be put in. And then I'm going to work my way through my scraps that I have, the Jameson and Smith ones, and those fuller skeins that I have here. So I'm going to keep those Rauma skeins for the longer stripes, and then the shorter that they get, the less yarn I'm obviously going to have to use, so I can pick from my leftovers from my mitten project that I bought these for. Yeah. Okay. I realize I'm often not looking straight into the camera. I apologize. Still in the process of getting used to the entire setup. So I don't know whether I forgot anything about this project except to gush over it, which I didn't forget to do. I just love it so much. I mean, look at those colors. Don't they just make you happy? I think they're just so gorgeous. This color, I have to say though, the dark green one, it bled on my hands. So when I had worked on it for say an hour and a half, and I had to wash my hands because my fingertips were tealy colored a little bit. So I hope it's not going to bleed too much when I wash the entire thing. But I also thought it was too much of a headache to wash it, like to wind it and wash it and dry it and wind it up again. I thought, I'm not going to do that. It's going to be fine. And it's going to be what it is. And it's not going to ruin my fun in that project, I'm sure. So these are my two active projects that I've been working on. So now we can move on to mending. So I have mended stuff. I told you in the beginning when I had to, take care of my shoulders, I tried to mend a little bit instead of knit all the time, which did help somewhat, but also, but also I wanted to make a dent in my mending, in my to be mended pile. And I've shown you before, so last episode, I've shown you these socks that I was Swiss darning. So there's Scotch darning and Swiss darning. And I think what I did is Swiss darning, where you retrace the movement of the individual stitches when they have worn thin but aren't gone yet. And Scotch darning is a certain sort of, I want to say more like a weaving technique. So it's more an embroidery than retracing the stitches that are already there. So I hope I didn't mix those two up last time, but I don't think I did. So this is my sock that I knit. It must be more than 10 years ago because my grandmother was still alive, who I visited, and then we both went to the yarn shop in her town that still exists. And she only died last year, but she was still very, she was not ill at all. And she was still like very much on her feet and out and about. So it must have been quite some time ago. And I remember wearing these in my apartment that I haven't lived in for, ever since I had kids. for 8 years now. Ooh, 8 years now. um, so this is going to be well over 10 years ago that I knit those. Also on a much larger needles, this must have been a 2.5, maybe even 3mm needle, because I was a tighter knitter back then, but then again, it's not very tight socks. But they have been worn a lot and gone through countless cycles on the machine. Also, I don't now do the 2x2 rib all the way to the heel because I don't enjoy knitting rib as much. But anyway, you can see a color preference here because this is really a color palette that makes me super happy. Like these berry tones are just so fun for me. I would buy this yarn again in a heartbeat if I still knew what it was. So several reasons to be mending the socks. So it's been these are well over 10 years old, and this is the first time that they've needed any mending of any sort. So it's good, sturdy yarn, even if my gauge isn't super tight. It isn't loose, but it isn't. Some people need extra tight on socks to make them last longer, and this is just not what I did. And they have, well, obviously memories attached to them, right? I want to wear them until I fall off my feet. But so I didn't knit a heel flap and gusset like I knit it now, but like my other grandmother taught me when I was 13, I think. Which is similar, but not identical. And well, anyway, so this goes to show how old they are. I knit the flap so that it goes straight down. Instead of with the, like I say, American heel flap and gusset, it goes in a sort of a V shape. And it's not the gusset, it's the heel flap. But here it goes straight down. See? So this is where I went with the yellow and the pink, the purple. This is where I retraced my every stitch and wove my way across to make it look as though it was just a knit fabric. But it's much sturdier because it's now double, right? Maybe you can see on the inside. I don't know, I've never checked. Not quite. Can't really tell on the inside, but so there were still stitches there is what I'm saying. And I retraced them so as to create a mended patch that is like the exact, like the original fabric, right? Just the knit fabric. So there is no weaving or anything. Again, I'm going to show you. And I did the same on just under the foot, like in this section of the foot where there's a lot of friction. You can see that there's a little bit of tension in there, that the rest of the fabric curls over this section a little bit, but I think it's because I haven't given it a wash. And excuse the sock being super pilly. I'm not depilling socks because it's not going to be good for them, because you only make the fabric thinner and it's going to wear through faster. So this is just a well-worn sock and I'm going to leave it like it is. And I just added that extra patch so as to not have to mend this section when it is actually worn through entirely. So that was my goal. And I'm going to have to admit that it takes a few minutes. It was not like one evening sit down with the sock and then your socks, because both of those had to be mended both here and down at the heel, and then you're done. No, it took me much longer than that. But I wanted for this to be a good job. Like I wanted for this to be sturdy. And you have excellent chances because this has been well worn and well felted, not felted, but felted enough with wear so that whatever you stitch into that fabric really holds on, right? I hope this makes sense to you. So I used scraps so as to imitate the stripy character of the sock to begin with. And luckily, like for example, this color matched exactly with, or almost exactly with that dark one. I mean, it's under the foot, so nobody's going to notice anyway. But I want it for it to be nice, not just functional. But you can obviously put on a blue patch or whatever. And what you could also do is pick up stitches when you have an area of this size, which is what I had, right? That is worn thin. You can go in with your needle, pick up stitches here, say 26 or whatever, or 30, however big of an area that needs fixing. I would make it wider rather than, too narrow, so you're not going to step on it the entire time on the seam. Pick up stitches, knit a flap, and then reattach it up here with a little seam and just attach it with a whip stitch on the sides. So that can also do the trick, right? But I wanted to try this method and I'm very happy with it. And I'm going to quickly show you the other side. Hold on. I put in a different color yarn for the heel that's also a perfect match. So I'm again talking about this little flap, if you cannot tell. And I had the same color and then again a purple for this stripe and the one below. I hope it's focusing. So this one and this one. And you can tell that here on the side, you can tell that I didn't make it as wide. I might have. I didn't, but it's good. And this is my mended project. Okay. Where am I going to put it? Right here. And then I mended socks for my son because he has a problem with socks because they're all worn through. And I also, not all, but many of them. And I also mend store-bought cotton socks until they no longer, until it doesn't make any sense anymore. So here I had mended it a little bit before, but I had to go back in and I'm just going to show you. And this is the other side. That was a bit more labor intense. It doesn't look like a whole lot, but just believe me, it takes a few minutes. And then when you see, so I wove my way through this fabric that was that had again worn thin but wasn't broken yet. When you see a diagonal, that's where I wove in my yarn. So it doesn't have to be super pretty. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just the sole of a foot and it's going to do the job. And I just recently read that because obviously I cannot repair these forever, right? These are, well, sooner or later they're going to wear through again. And eventually I'm going to decide that it's not worth it repairing them again because there comes a time when you will effectively have to reknit a sock, But this is now going to last. It's going to last him for long enough until he needs a bigger size socks, I would say. So this is for my oldest son. And then he can still pass them down. We will still get somewhere out of those. So, so yeah, what I wanted to say is I read the other day that if you mend a piece of clothing and you manage to prolong its life by 9 months only, and I'm saying only because like when you mend one hole in a sock or in a shirt or whatever, and you manage to get to the end of, you manage to prolong its life by 9 months, which isn't a whole lot because with kids and also like with adults, depending on what it is that you do with your stuff, you're gonna have, if you will be at a point 9 months after the mending that you will decide to throw the thing away because it's not worth mending anymore, it will have seen a lot of wear, possibly a lot of love, because you use it for your craft, your hobby, your favorite sport, I don't know, it's your favorite piece of clothing. The kids have rolled in the dirt with it and climbed trees or whatever. Okay, so it will have seen a lot of wear if you sort of only prolong its life by 9 months. 9 months is not so much. A little mend can make that garment last much longer than 9 months, right? But if you only look at this time span and you only sort of prolong the life of garment by 9 months, I read the water footprint reduces by 20 to 30%. So because especially cotton needs so much water, right, to grow, which is why it's important to buy organic cotton if you can, and also to not buy too many things because it's not good, right? And that little mend can make an impact like this big, right? You can reduce the footprint by 20 to 30% because you will start buying new stuff later on in the game. And so I thought this was really encouraging. I thought, see, it does make a difference. It does make a difference whether you take the time to mend the hole or to like reattach that the hem of a t-shirt, because often t-shirt hems, come loose or come undone, unravel, right? It does make a difference if you do that. Or if you put a patch on your knee, on the knee of the jeans of your kids, or if it's your own pants and you don't fancy the patch style, find out a solution to fix that situation, right? You can embroider on it, you can put a fabric underneath, and so on and so forth. It does make such a difference when you mend those areas on the thighs where the jeans rub thin, and you put something on the inside and just zigzag over it, because nobody's ever going to see it, and those jeans will last you for years to come. So take that as an encouragement. It isn't for nothing. And I know it stinks when you have little ones and they wear holes in everything, but there is also fun in mending, but not always. But it's a worthy cause. Like, it's a good thing. You're doing both your family and your kids and the planet good service. So take that as an encouragement for me if you need that, because sometimes mending is just a pain. Sometimes it's great fun, depending on the project. But yeah, when I read that, I thought, oh, that's interesting. So, and like I said, to prolong the life of a garment by 9 months isn't hard. It isn't hard. Okay, another mending project. Both my sons have worn it, but my oldest has grown out of this. Well, he still wears it, but he maybe shouldn't anymore. But my middle son wore this recently. This is an astronaut costume. See, this is just an astronaut suit with a sort of made up whatever sign on there, which I'm assuming is supposed to stand for NASA, but they weren't allowed to use that. So they put something on there, and see how he is a little American. I don't know. We just got this off of MENDING, which is the correspondent of, I think, neighborhood.com. So someone wanted to get rid of it about 2 years ago. So we took it off their hands for the boys. And there was a hole here in the underarm, just right down there. And you may see how I fixed this. This is not perfection, but it will last, and it's good enough for them to be able to wear it again. Hold on. See, you can see that line there. But it's good enough. It's mended. They came to me with a complaint that there's a hole under the arms, and I've sewn it shut, and it goes back into the kids' room, and that's the end of that story. So another piece mended. And then I said, I have been spinning, because About, oh no, I talked about this in the last episode. So about a month ago, it may have been, I felt the urge to spin out of the blue. I have a spinning wheel that again, I got secondhand off this platform. Someone wanted to gift it. And I said, well, I really want to take it. And I was the only person apparently who wrote to that lady, saying she wanted to craft with it, because I said I've always wanted to learn to spin, or not always, but for a long time. And so this is really perfect. I would love to take this out of your hands if you want to give it to me. And she said everyone else just wanted it for decoration, so she wants to give it to me. Oh, so I got gifted a spinning wheel, which isn't fancy schmancy, but I knew nothing about spinning wheels, still don't. I learned how to work it, and I've produced a few skeins, I think 3 by now. And yeah, and I'm learning as I go, and I'm getting better at it. So my new work progress, if you want to, I got the spool so I can show you, is again like my last skein that I showed you, Faserliebe. This is Falkland Merino. And this is what's left of the braid. This is how much I've got left, which is about 1/4, I would say. So this might be 25, 30 grams, I would say. There you go. So this is what I'm still going to have to spin. This is my first, what is it called? Is it a spool? This is the second. So you can see where I'm at, just down there. So my thread is pretty fine. I think my default thickness is just super fine. Sometimes I'm surprised that it even holds, because the string that it produces is so fine that I think it should break. Maybe that isn't as good because it requires a lot of twist, and maybe that makes it a little scratchier. But that is something I'm going to have to figure out. Maybe I should make it not make it as thin of a strand that is spun, and give it a little less twist to make it a little softer to the touch. I don't know. But then I don't know how soft this is going to be. I'm just basing this off of the experience with my other hand spun. But the experience has been very different because I've only spun 3 skeins. So it's gotten better and better with every skein. So I'm just working on this now with 0 expectations. And other than to improve my game, like just to, other than to create muscle memory, not improve as in I want a certain result, but improve as in I want to get more and more and more acquainted with the process. And I can always find a fun project. Like, it doesn't have to be a garment. If the yarn is too scratchy, you can make home accessories, or I don't know what. There are many things you can make with hand spun that is not next to skin soft. So I'm not worried about this at all. Yeah, and oh yes, and I bought, again on that same platform in my neighborhood, I saw that someone was selling wool, unspun wool, but washed and carded wool, so ready to spin, but not not braided up or dyed, but just in a natural color, which is, now I didn't bring it. I'm going to show you when I start spinning on it. In a sort of oatmeal-y beigey color. Yeah, it is more in the beige family than gray. And has some, now that I come to think of it, some brown hairs in it, some like brown flecks in it. So it's going to be a beigey brown. And I don't know, maybe I'm eventually going to dye it but I don't think so. I would, and I bought this off of her for 15 euros, which is, well, you could say $15, more or less. So not a lot of money. And this is, I think, the wool of 2 sheeps. So it's, it's quite an amount. I don't know how much it is in grams, or ounces for that matter. I just got, well, a whole big bag full of wool, and it's on my balcony, and I'm slowly putting it in the freezer. Like I put it into individual bags, and then every week I put another bag in the freezer and take the previous one out, because I don't want for it to have any moths or anything in it, and then ruin my stash. I don't want for anything to enter my house. So that's the process now. And I thought I might try and spin the batch that I'd taken out of the freezer before the next one comes out, but that was way too ambitious. It's not going to happen. Also, seeing as I'm still on this baby, but already on my third little trash bag full of yarn that has gone into the freezer. So 2 have come out, and I've done 0 spinning on them. But as soon as I have this done, and I want to get this done this week, I will start spinning on this yarn. And then I'm really excited to see how it spins up, because I don't even know the breed. She didn't know anything. And I don't have enough experience with unspun wool in my hand to be able to determine what sort of sheep that must have been. But yeah, she didn't know anything. But I can tell it's been washed and it's been carded. And so far as I can tell, it's clean, but I'm still putting it in the fridge or in the freezer to be absolutely sure. And then I can't wait to spin it up. And I really hope that I can turn it into a garment afterwards, even if it's not necessarily a color that is, that I would have, when I say beige, in the beige family, it's nothing that screams my name, but it would be so fun to have this much of wool, be able to spin it all up over the next 5 years or something like that. No, but to spin it all up eventually and then make it into a garment. It would just be a success story, wouldn't it be? So, and I thought maybe I can make it into a cardigan and have another color to go along with it to create a little bit of a colorwork yoke. Maybe I could finally learn how to steek and make it a steek cardigan. I don't know, but I find the idea of a warm, rustic, hand-spun, hand-knit colorwork cardigan very fun, that you can put on when you want something really warm. But obviously, if it's a cardigan, you don't have the expectation like with the sweater that you have a t-shirt on underneath, but you have something on underneath. You put it on for an extra layer. And yeah, so then it might not be so bad if my hand spun is still comparatively coarse, maybe not coarse, but coarser than, the yarn of experienced spinners. But I'm not doing too bad of a job, I don't think. It doesn't feel coarse to the touch. This doesn't. But I mean, plying is also a sort of an art form, because I only know one way of plying yarn together. And apparently there are several ways, which I cannot wrap my head around how that would be possible, but I'm going to have to learn that. I'm going to want to learn that eventually, but I'm taking it bit by bit. So, yeah, maybe also my wheel, which is standing right there, which is why I'm looking over, is very simple. So maybe you would need more of a fancy wheel for that. I don't know, but I don't think so. Well, it's a learning curve for sure. But yeah, well, this is what my plans are with regard to spinning. And as for what I've been watching on TV, I can tell you that I have finished watching The Crown. I had finished watching it the last time that we spoke, but I think I just forgot to mention it. And boy, is it a bummer that I'm now going to have to wait until the next season comes out. And I think this one just came out. I think it did in January or something like that. So I'm gonna have to wait for a long time. So, well, don't even get me started on that. But I love the show. I love how the element of transitioning when the actors change, because I find myself making many remarks about the changes in actors and actresses. But then again, each new set of actors and actresses is so good. But I have to say though, so the Dolores Umbridge actress, Imelda something or other, Winton, I don't know. So the current queen is who now plays it in the current season. Who plays her in the current season. She is, well, she's perfect for that role. I really think she is. And I have to say, my absolute favorite is he called Josh O'Connor? He's Mr. Elton in the 2020 Emma movie, which, if you know me, that is that's an obsession for me. I've talked about the 2020 Emma version a lot on this podcast, so I'm going to spare you my well, I'm going to spare you all of this now, but he is Mr. Elton in the Emma in this Emma movie, and he's obviously perfect for him, and so funny. And I read that he plays Prince Charles, and I thought, how is that going to work out? And then I saw him on those 2 seasons, and boy, man, I'm not an expert on Prince Charles, and I am too young to have, to remember much footage from when he was young. But you see Prince Charles standing right there in front of you. That is amazing what he does. Like the way he holds himself. So like his entire posture, with the hands in these little front pockets, always, which sort of always squishes his shoulders up a little too high, and then he hunches over and puts his head up front like it. I saw him every time and thought, this is perfect. How does he do that? And the way he speaks, I was just really, if you cannot tell, I was really blown away. He does such a good job, and I didn't enjoy him exiting this series. Also, I think the second Prince Charles isn't as good as Josh O'Connor, if that's his name. He's definitely called Josh. I think O'Connor. Well, you know who I'm talking about. If you've watched the show, you know, and if you haven't, it doesn't matter anyway. So, but the second actor who is now in the current season, still playing him, he managed to speak in the exact same way as the Josh O'Connor impersonation does, if that makes sense what I'm saying. So they speak alike, and that is amazing. And many actor transitionings have managed to accomplish that. So also the Prince Philips, they speak alike, and that is amazing. But I must say, Prince Philip in season 3 and 4 is my favorite. What a brilliant actor. Man, I really enjoyed every scene that he was in. Terrific. I was really, 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 really happy with him. So that was amazing, watching all those, I think 5 seasons of that show in one go. I mean, very stop and go in the beginning, but as it took up speed, I was also able to invest a little more time in the evening in it. So it was very fun. Huge recommendation if you haven't watched it. So, and also I've started and finished Bridgerton, both the first and the second season. I haven't watched it in a while, and I think, shouldn't there be another season coming now? Wasn't the last one released last year in March? I think it was. So I'm awaiting another season, but I don't see that one has been announced, or maybe it's not on my radar. I just hope it's coming and soon, because it's just fun, and the colors in Bridgerton are very beautiful. It's a fun show to watch, and I've just watched the 2 seasons back to back, and in a matter of days. I want to say, even that is exaggerated, but since we last spoke. And with a few days to spare. So, and I'm also on the back burner watching the Gilmore Girls whenever I don't know what else to put on, and my husband hands me the remote because he's about to go to bed. Then I'm gonna put on the Gilmore Girls for like a half an hour or something like that. And I have watched them so often in my life that I couldn't tell you. I couldn't possibly tell you how many times I've watched the entire series. From beginning to end, with maybe the exception of the 7th season, because I'm not in love with it. But yeah, seasons 1 through 5, well, countless times. I'm now in season 4, and I think it's my favorite. Because I'm just gonna, if you are as nerdy as I am about this, then you are gonna know the episode. So my absolute favorite episode of all times in Gilmore Girls is called The Nanny and the Professor, where Rory tells Lorelai in the kitchen, when she has just tried to brush all her crumbs under the sink. Are you brushing dirt under the sink? I'm brushing crumbs under the sink. That Paris has an affair with Asher Fleming. And she tells him he's old. He went to school with Grandpa. And that was just such a fun scene. And in the same episode, what's his name? Michelle takes care of Suki's baby, of Davy, and thinks he's called Truman. And then he invents a game, and he rolls him under the bed. And then he calls Lorelai so that she can, take him out from under the bed when he lifts it, but he doesn't want to lift the bed without taking his shirt off because it might wrinkle. And then she said, no, you're leaving on your shirt. And this is it's so funny. And yeah, that's my favorite episode. There you go. There you have it. And it's a close tie though with the ones that go before and after. And also Rory, soon after that, starts relighting her, or rekindling, whatever the word is that you might use in that context, her romance with Dean. And I'm just, it's confession time today. I'm just gonna say, I'm not Team Logan. I'm not Team Jess. I have always been Team Dean. And I see how the other two are so much more alluring, but I just have a thing for Dean. Please comment below if you do too. I assume there's going to be no comments on this, because I'm always the only one who is Team Dean, which is not even a team that anyone talks about, because everybody is so clearly Jess or Logan. And by the way, I would be Team Logan, but not in not in the new series. And I think in the new series, in that a year in the life, right? It's not new anymore, but the one that came later, I think for me, it's pretty obvious that it will be Jess, and it's I would be really good with that. But in season 4, I'm all for Dean. I think, I don't know, they're just a good match. Anyway, I'm going to end this here before I talk myself even deeper into this and start a whole controversy about teams. Also, it's so nerdy that very few people are going to even relate to what I'm saying. So, yeah, let me just thank you quickly for letting me hang out with you for a bit and for listening to my rambles and looking at my projects with me and waiting for a new episode to come out, or even checking out this one for the first time. Feel free to like and subscribe below and come back another time. Next time, I hope it's not going to be too long, but I don't think it is. I am excited to be able to update you about my half and half triangles wrap and to show you what, it will have turned into by the time we next speak. I hope you all can transition well into the next season over those next few weeks, whichever season it may be that comes your way. And I hope you hold on to your knitting, do a little mending, find something that you can mend in your life, and I'll be back soon. Bye.